This conversation goes out to all our young ladies who are struggling with the concept of modesty in a world where the word modest in of itself has become somewhat of a curse word. And to all the parents who may be struggling with this topic with their girls especially. My own daughter and I go back and forth on this topic almost every day.
It's time to exhale and be motivated. Annie's Blue Couch. Yeah.
Hello everyone, to all of you, Annie's crew. Welcome back to the Annie's Blue Couch. Thank you so much for taking the time to sit down with me today. Now, before we get into today's conversation, I have to remind you to please like, subscribe, turn on the notification bell, and as always, please do me a huge favor and share this video with at least 2 of your friends. So I know by now you probably have heard of Cardi B's most recent song release. I'm not even going to say the name. I actually don't listen to Cardi B or even really listen to music that's not gospel, unless I have to learn a song for a specific event like a wedding or something. But anyway, so everyone was talking about this video and I wanted to check it out for myself. Now, as much as I found no entertainment and was absolutely disgusted by it, I can't say I was shocked. Like, what do you expect from someone who doesn't necessarily have a standard when it comes to modesty? Honestly, what other people choose to do with their lives is their choice. This is not a conversation to bash Cardi B or the other women involved in this very strange music video. And I'm not here to promote it either. But the topic of modesty comes into play when vulgarity like this is so easily accessible to our children, both girls and boys. But we'll stick more so to the girls for today's conversation. As a mom of 2 girls myself, what I want to instill in my girls is that they are beautiful, capable, and deserving of respect, and don't have to ever expose themselves to prove any of those things. Respect starts inwardly, and what you believe about yourself has a way of showing up on the outside, even when you're trying to hide it. So here we are talking about this, and I think moms and dads can be considered old school or whack, or as my oldest daughter recently taught me, day room, for some of our perspectives on this topic of modesty. But when you're raising girls, and honestly boys too, we just can't sit quiet. I'm not sure the reason this concept of a song came into play. I know it's been said it was about empowering women, and I do understand that women get a bad name for the same things that men get applauded for. And though that's not fair, understand that just because men are applauded for something appalling, women don't have to seek after the same applause for that thing. Wrong is wrong. Vulgar is vulgar. Lewd is lewd. And modest is modest. So this conversation goes out to all our young ladies who are struggling with the concept of modesty in a world where the word modest in of itself has become somewhat of a curse word. And to all the parents who may be struggling with this topic with their girls especially. My own daughter and I go back and forth on this topic almost every day. So I invited her back to Annie's Blue Couch for this week's conversation so we can talk about it here. This should be fun. Annie's crew, you've met my oldest, Aliana, before. Please welcome back to Annie's Blue Couch, Allie.
Hey, y'all.
So let me tell you what happened. A friend called me earlier this week and asked me if I saw this video, and Allie overheard me and was like, "Mommy, you watched that?" And I'm like, "You watched that?" And what did you say?
I was like, yeah.
So I said, "Oh Lord, let's talk about this." I realized that no matter how much you attempt to protect your child from certain things.
You can't protect them from it all.
Yeah, you can't protect them from it all. Okay, so first of all, why did you watch that?
Well, over quarantine, I've changed a lot, like in terms of my religion and not being a lukewarm Christian. So back in my rebellious stage, I subscribed to Cardi B, and since she hasn't posted in so long, I totally forgot that I was subscribed to her. So when she posted the video, it popped up on my suggestions, and I kind of just watched it.
I think this brings up a good point that could be a whole other topic, but I think it's important to address right here. Because the dangers of getting entangled in certain things is that even when you decide to detangle yourself, it will still present itself when you're trying to remain focused.
Yeah, I totally agree, especially because this change has been so recent. I think I'm still in a place where I could easily go back to my previous habits.
I'm really proud of you, Allie. Like, for being honest about that. And I think as parents, we really need to allow our children, as they grow into young adults, to have a safe space in us to be able to talk about the things that they're struggling with. So, what were your first thoughts about it?
Well, my first thought was like, I was wondering what the title stood for because I watched the censored version, so it didn't really add up and I was confused. But I kind of put two and two together, and then after the media got a hold of it and it became super big, then my theories were confirmed. But other than that, I wasn't really too surprised. I kind of just viewed it as another song that she put out. Like, it's Cardi B. Like, what do you expect?
I definitely agree with that. I said that earlier. What do you really expect from someone without a standard of modesty? I did think about the fact that when people listen to music, it seeps into them and they sing it over and over, replay it in their minds. And even if you start out thinking something has crossed the line, eventually you kind of get desensitized to it and you start to accept it as okay. And I just don't want you to ever think that you have to go with the flow of the culture that says lewd and vulgar is what you have to be to feel good about yourself as a female.
Okay. What does lewd mean?
It's a synonym for vulgar. It usually is referred to like sexual behavior, inappropriate sexual behavior.
Okay.
And I think the opposite of vulgarity is modesty. So let's talk modesty. What do you define modesty as, Allie?
I feel like each person has their own definition of modesty.
That's actually very true. But do you think there's a baseline standard?
I think that modesty differs on your body type, like your age and what you're actually doing.
What do you mean what you're doing?
So, like, if you're going to the pool, you can wear bathing suit, but if you're going to school, you would not wear that. Or if you're going to church, even if the thing might not be too tight or too short, if it's loud with flashy colors, you might not wear that because it's taking away from what church is really for, which is to worship God, and you're being a distraction.
That's actually a really good point. All three parts of that was very, very good. The point you made about body type and age, I think, is good because the more you have to show, the more you may need to cover up. And what I let your little sister wear, for example, is not necessarily what I would let you wear. And I mean, fair or not, it's the reality of it. As for what you're doing, that is also a huge point that goes back to the definition of what lewd is, because time and place is a factor when it comes to modesty. A married couple, for example, privately talking about something sexual isn't lewd, but if they got on the loudspeaker of your school's PA system, that same conversation would be considered lewd. But the question still remains unanswered. What is modesty?
I don't think I actually know what modesty is. Like, I know it has to do with covering up and not showing too much, but I don't really know the basic standard, and I do not think that with modesty you have to dress like a nun.
Well, I don't think you have to dress like a nun either. Okay, let me start by saying that modesty, though we're primarily talking about clothing and outward appearance, isn't only for that. Modesty is decency. And decency doesn't only apply to what you wear. It also applies to what you allow to come out of your mouth. Modesty is an attitude of humility. It's about what's on display. I recently learned the word modesty. The Latin word for it is modestus, which means keeping within measure. Now, I know this measure can vary from culture to culture, from family to family, but I don't want you following after any standard just because the culture says so or because another family does it. That means you can do it too. There's got to be a restraint of some sort. A lot of people in our world kind of just goes with the flow, and I want to have a higher standard than that. I want you to have a higher standard than that. I feel in our culture that standard is being set by social media, and it's damaging our perception of modesty and how we express ourselves, and especially for young girls. It appears to me that the less clothes you have on, the more likes you get. And if you don't get enough likes, you aren't good enough somehow. What do you think about that?
Well, I think that this is 110% true, especially because, don't quote me on this.
Okay.
You cannot use this in further arguments.
This means you're about to say something that proves my point, but go ahead.
Well, I feel like I'm going to use Instagram for example. You're going to start off by saying, oh, it's just a little bit of my stomach. Next day it's like, oh, this skirt's just a little short. Next day it's, oh, this is just a little tight. Oh, this is just a little low. Oh, this is a little this, little that. And all those little things come together and they are now one big thing. And now that you're being 100% immodest, but you're getting all these likes, comments, followers, people interacting with you, and you're happy now with the way that your social media platform is going, now it's going to be hard for you to go back to what you were before.
Do you feel pressure to expose yourself from social media?
I don't really think that it's a pressure thing, but I am influenced by the culture. And I might not want to post a provocative picture for likes, but I do think that I want to wear what I want in general.
We definitely have butt heads often about what to wear and what's appropriate, and I definitely feel like I'm fighting with social media to raise you to think and dress more modestly. I want you to cover up because I don't want you to get negative attention.
But that's the annoying thing. Girls are always told, oh, you need to cover your shoulders. And the boys are looking, oh, this is too tight. You're distracting the boys. Oh, this, oh, that, just because of the boys. And now we have to dress a certain way just because men can't control themselves.
That's a very good point. And, okay, so we don't have to live for other people, but you do have to be mindful of other people. And I know that can get a bit hairy, but we understand this when we're dealing with children. For example, you'd never leave a knife in the reach of a 2-year-old. And that's because you understand and accept that they are not responsible enough to handle that kind of exposure. When it comes to men, boys, understanding that a man is visually stimulated. And that means we have to be mindful of the message that we send and be mindful of how we present ourselves. I'm not saying that every time you get dressed, you have to think, will a guy like this? Will somebody turn their head? But there are some things that we should just be mindful of. There was this one time there was a girl walking in front of me, and a guy yelled something to her. Honestly, it was disgraceful. And she clapped back, "Why are you looking?" And he said, "Because you're showing it all." And I thought, And this is the thing. I'm not giving a pass to guys to degrade women at all. That is unacceptable. There's no excuse for saying something degrading to a woman just because there's something on display. I am saying that as females, we have to be careful how we put ourselves together so that we don't attract negative attention. We have to set a standard of modesty for our own selves.
Okay. That's a valid point, but what do you consider is a good standard for modesty?
For me, when it comes to clothing, especially, I try very hard to be mindful not to expose anything I consider private,
So what do you consider private?
like cleavage or behind or even the upper parts of my legs. And I also feel exposed if my undergarments are visible. So I wouldn't wear anything that's see-through, or even if the lines or the imprint of my undergarment show, that means it's too tight. So that kind of thing, I consider it to be not modest, and I wouldn't wear that.
Well, what about your shoulders or your stomach? Because, guys, whenever I wear something, she'll be like, raise your arms. And if a little bit of skin shows, she'll be like, put a shirt under. That's showing too much. Or if I wear a tank top, she'll be like, oh, it's too revealing. And she's like, oh, your chest is out. And she's talking about my chest, saying that this is revealing.
Okay, here's the thing. Because that sounded a lot. But I just feel that the less clothes you have on, the closer you are to being naked. And we're going to add that because I said when you asked me about what's private, I didn't include shoulders and stomach. Those are included too. Your shoulders and your stomach.
Okay, so I have a question, but I don't want to get in trouble for it.
Okay, hold on. Before you ask this question, let's pause. I want us to take a quick break.
Okay.
I'm kind of nervous about what question you're about to ask. But let's take a quick break. Plus, I think that the video is going on a little bit long. Okay. And we can kind of like make the other video like part two or something. Yeah. So this is what we'll do. We're going to take a break. We're actually going to continue recording. I hope you all are enjoying this conversation. I hope it's helping you. Allie and I are going to continue recording, but you will have to come back next week to finish watching part 2 of our conversation. And I promise you, we'll pick up right here on whatever question Allie is about to ask right now.
Okay, and also because mommy stopped me in the middle of a question, make sure you come back to see what that question is. And also in part 2, I do think I'm going to tell you guys about one time when I confessed to my mom about something that I did that was really, really bad.
Oh, that thing the other day? Okay, we could talk about that. All right, so leave a comment down below and let us know your thoughts thus far. If we need to do a part 3 on this, we will. Because when you see this video, the comments that you leave, part 2 is already going to be recorded now. So if there's some things that you leave us in the comment section and we need to do a part 3, we'll definitely do that. So leave your comments. Don't forget to like. Don't forget to subscribe. Turn on your notification bell so you get a message when part 2 loads. Until next time, remember that you are beautiful. You are special. Your smile is amazing. And don't let anyone or anything ever make you feel less than who and what God has designed you to be. Annie's crew, you are fearfully and wonderfully made. Bye for now.
Annie's Blue Couch.